The story opens with a thrilling scene. Three avid climbers, Becky, her boyfriend Dan, and her best friend Hunter, are scaling a towering rock face. As the trio ascends, Becky must make a daring leap across a gap. Dan catches her midair, and she clings to him in relief. But just moments later, as Dan continues climbing, a bat suddenly bursts from a crevice in the rock, startling him. He slips, scrambling to regain his grip. Although he hangs on briefly, tragedy strikes. His harness gives out, and Dan plunges to his death below. Nearly a year has passed since the accident. Becky is a shadow of her former self. Racked with grief, she's sunk into alcoholism and isolation. She hasn't climbed since Dan died and has cut off nearly everyone, including her father, James. Their last conversation is filled with pain. James tells her she shouldn't let Dan's memory consume her, hinting that Dan wasn't quite the person she thought he was. He said if the situation were reversed, if Becky had died, Dan wouldn't be grieving the same way. The comment drives a wedge between them. That night, Becky returns home, numb and broken, and prepares to end her life with a bottle of pills. But her spiral is interrupted by a phone call. It's Hunter. She arrives unannounced at Becky's apartment, warm and vibrant as ever, trying to pull her friend from the brink. To snap Becky out of her downward spiral, Hunter proposes something wild, a climb. Not just any climb, but a 2,000-foot-high decommissioned TV tower in the middle of nowhere. At first, Becky is paralyzed by fear. She hasn't climbed since Dan's death. But Hunter stays the night, comforting her, urging her to face her fears head-on. That night, Becky has a chilling dream. She wakes up to find Dan's corpse lying beside her, eyes wide open, blood staining the sheets. Gasping, she bolts upright. The nightmare lingers, but so do Dan's old words, "Don't be afraid to live." That memory pushes her to say yes to the climb. Hunter and Becky set off, heading deep into the desert. On the way, they stop at a dusty roadside diner. Becky's phone is dead, so Hunter improvises, using the power from a lamp to charge it. The next day, they drive to the base of the tower, but are forced to stop at a locked gate. They continue on foot under the scorching sun. Along the way, they spot vultures feasting on a dying coyote. The scene is gruesome, life and death up close. They chase the vultures away and move on. When they finally reach the tower, Becky hesitates, doubt creeping in. But Hunter, ever the motivator, pushes her to dig deep and begin the climb. At first, the climb is manageable. They ascend to 1,000 feet and pause to catch their breath. Hunter marvels at the view, noting that they're now higher than the Eiffel Tower. Then comes the hard part, an additional 200 feet via a rusted, exposed ladder. As they climb, bolts tremble and fall. Hunter's carefree attitude makes Becky anxious, but they both make it to the summit. They soak in the view, a stunning, vertigo-inducing panorama of emptiness. Hunter records videos, plays with her drone, and snaps dangerous selfies. She convinces Becky to hang off the edge with her. Reluctantly, Becky does it, and then scatters Dan's ashes into the wind. The moment is solemn, even beautiful. Hunter gets emotional seeing her friend take that step. But then disaster strikes. As they prepare to descend, Becky leads the way. When she reaches the section of ladder that had lost bolts, it gives way. Becky screams as she falls, losing their gear bag, which contains the drone and water, as it tumbles onto a satellite dish below. Hunter manages to pull Becky up with their harness, but the ladder is now completely unusable. Worse still, Becky has a deep gash on her thigh. Hunter fashions a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. Stranded, the reality begins to set in. They find a compartment in the tower containing binoculars and a flare gun. They decide to conserve the flare, using it only when they're certain it'll help. There's no cell service at the top. They wait, hoping the noise of the collapsing ladder might bring help. Hours pass. Nothing. Through the binoculars, they spot a trailer parked in the distance. Hunter lowers her phone in a desperate attempt to get a signal. She lowers it as far as it can go and tries to go lower, but it's no use. She pads it inside a shoe with socks and her sports bra, trying to soften the impact. But when they drop it, the phone shatters on the ground. Later, a man from the trailer walks nearby with his dog. The dog finds the broken phone and shoe. The girls yell and throw shoes, trying to be noticed. But unfortunately, the man doesn't notice them and walks away. Later in the night, the silence grows heavier, like something's about to happen. The men look up and spot them. But instead of helping, they steal Hunter's car and drive off. Hunger and thirst gnaw at the girls. Becky, desperate, watches an old wedding video. Something catches her eye. Hunter in the background, somber. Becky notices a tattoo on Hunter's foot, 143. It was a code Dan used. 1 letter for I, 4 for love, and 3 for you. He never said the words, only tapped them out. Suspicion hardens into certainty. Hunter finally admits it. She and Dan had an affair. It lasted 4 months. She says Dan made the first move, and she ended it because while she loved Dan, she loved Becky more. The next morning, Becky realizes the phone drop was a failure. They have 1 shot left. Retrieve the drone. Hunter volunteers. Using the harness, she climbs down to the satellite and drinks some water from the bag. She uses a selfie stick to hook the bag onto the harness and tries to climb back up. Becky pulls her, and though Hunter slips, she appears to land safely. With the drone in hand, the girls write a desperate note and attempt to send it to the motel. The battery is too low. Becky remembers Hunter's earlier trick at the diner, using the light socket. She climbs higher to the very top of the tower and plugs the drone in. The cord is too short. Thinking fast, Becky uses her wedding ring to bridge the current. As she clings to the metal, a vulture swoops in, drawn by the blood from her wound. Becky endures. Finally, the drone charges, and she sends it flying. It almost reaches the motel, but is obliterated by a passing truck. Becky is fading. Dehydrated and delirious, she turns to Hunter for help, but something's wrong. Hunter isn't responding. That's when the crushing truth hits. Hunter never made it back. She fell and died on the satellite. Becky's mind, overwhelmed with grief and trauma, imagined Hunter's survival. She had only pulled up the bag. That night, a vulture lands near Becky's wound, pecking. She lashes out, grabs it, and kills it. In a grim act of survival, she eats it raw. The next morning, Becky records one last message to her father, apologizing for pushing him away. Then she climbs down to Hunter's body, places her phone in her shoe, and stuffs it inside Hunter's exposed wound, knowing vultures will carry it down. She pushes the body off. Eventually, James arrives with emergency responders. He sees a body bag. His soul shatters, until he hears a whisper. Dad, Becky is alive, pale, gaunt, but alive. He runs to her, holds her, cries, and for the first time in a long time, she lets him. Kindly subscribe for more amazing videos like this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Your support keeps this channel going and brings you more interesting content. Thanks for watching.